time this one, another welcome out. One time
The future of talk is here. Powerful digital.
Indeed, it is.
So that means next time will be
And
sir.
on Friday, we have the Single Fathers of the Fathers Association to do for us Hard Talk. Hard Talk starts now with the focus on gender equality and fatherhood, focus on parental rights. I have with me on the set Rondell Fields and, of course, his colleague, Wendell Grant. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon, Rondell.
Hi. Good afternoon, Mark. Good afternoon, Wendell. I mean, we must say, thank God more than anything else for us living to see another Friday, another session. We always want to extend that level of gratitude to Power 102 for extending this olive branch, as I always call it, for us to come here and to speak on a number of issues pertaining to fatherhood. And you may realize in the last few weeks, a lot of issues pertaining to fatherhood has been in the forefront. Unfortunately, it's been spurred by a number of tragedy. We've seen tragedy when it comes to Mr. Lalit's case with his baby daughter Amara, that we spoke to Mr. Lalit, we spoke to Shervon Reyes last week about that as well. We saw also a great tragedy when it comes to a number of babies dying. And though I have seen one or two articles, or one article that spoke specifically to the father as well. We need to remember that daddy's a parent too, and we must send our condolences out to those families who lost the lives of their children. And also, we want to send condolences, to the fathers, the mothers, of course, as well, but specifically also to because I don't think it's been reiterated enough in the media and stuff to those fathers, because we know you guys are hurting too. We as fathers, understand the kind of pain you would be going through to lose your child, just as Mr. Lalit lost his child in a very tragic way, though it's through different circumstances that are criminal. Through this circumstance, it's equally painful. Going to the hospital expecting, you've seen that the pregnancy process, you've had the thoughts in mind of what you're going to do when the child is 5, when the child is 10, when the child is 16. And for that to be snuffed away is no easy scenario for any parent, mother and father. So we send condolences out to the family, the mothers and fathers who has had to suffer that kind of loss this week. And these kind of things taking place only could spur in the thoughts of the Single Fathers Association, as I say, we are now called the Fathers Association Fathers, of the things that we've lamented on and the things that we've highlighted in the past. And we've heard a lot of discussion this week about that. Wendell, obviously, Shervon just joined me as well. We've heard a lot of discussion of fathers, Mr. Lalit coming forward as well, just as Mr. Shervon Reyes did when it had happened to him, and speaking of him not getting the opportunity or him not being guided well enough, and his perception of the court being somewhat biased or not showing the level of interest or concern pertaining to, giving him the information that he needed, the police service giving him the information that he needed to better advocate, or guidance he needed to better advocate, to be able to get some meaningful access to his children, to his child, sorry. So it always goes in me and reminds me of the things we've lamented on, the things we've advocated for. And it provoked in me, guys. I know Wendell, you there? Well, Wendell maybe not there as yet.
Yeah,
Wendell.
Yes, Wendell is here and Shervon is here.
Right, good. Wendell, I don't know if you remember. I know Shervon would remember as well, when we would have gone to the Joint Select Committee, we would have tabled a number of things with discussion. And that is one of the reasons we call the segment to the gender equality and fatherhood, because that is exactly what the Joint Select Committee hearing was about. That is exactly what our project was about, where we would have highlighted a number of things. And it only could have carried me back to our issue paper, Wendell, where it's well summarized the suggestions coming out of that Joint Select Committee hearing. You remember
Yes.
that, Wendell?
Yes, yes.
So, and Wendell, what really surprised me, Wendell and Shervon, is the fact that a lot of the things that we'd have made suggestions on, a lot of the things that we made suggestions to Parliament there, a lot of the suggestions and recommendations that we made during that Joint Select Committee hearing, and that summary that came out of the report from the Joint Select Committee, it astonished me, or it at least not only astonished me, it sort of hurt in a sense to see that had any of or some of those suggestions be put in place, we may have had a chance to save a life or two. One. And we may have had a chance also to make the lives of a grieving parent better. And as the day goes by, we will elaborate on that as we go into some of those things that the Joint Select Committee that stated in the Joint Select Committee report. So Wendell, let me give you the floor just to give a little opening and a little perception, your perception on what's been taking place for the past week, your experience also being an advocate and an outreach officer, as being in this thing as long as I have been here. Give me your personal experience as to sit back and watch it and to hear the things that we've been lamenting on, the things we've been advocating for, still up to this state, still some of them not being introduced, that we have to still continue to lament for. Tell me how that make you feel.
It's very disappointing. Good evening, Sharon. I must say that it's very disappointing, to say the least. The reality of it is that, as I keep saying, nobody is asking, we are not asking anyone to reinvent the wheel. We are not asking anyone to identify the problems that exist. We have already identified the problems, right? And when they didn't believe that what we were saying were true, we had that project by the European Union that helped us to gather data that proved that what we were saying, or what they were saying, were our claims were in fact the reality. And even when we discovered the full extent of what we were dealing with, it was alarming at that time, because we knew that that there were injustices, we knew that there were biases, we knew that there were disparities, but when we saw the actual statistics, I mean, that was alarming. And so we are not asking anyone to spend time and expend resources in finding out if a problem exists. We know that the problem exists. We have identified what they are and presented them with the statistics and the information, and we have offered solutions. We didn't just say, well, these are the problems and we want you all to do something about it. We have offered solutions, and I keep raising that point. We have done the work for them.
Correct.
All we need to do is take it and run with it. And for the love of God, I can't understand why. Why is it that the powers that be are not doing anything? And it is very, very disheartening, very disconcerting, because I mean, look, just this morning I just went down by the went out by the mini mart to buy something, and two guys were standing there just talking, and they were talking about the guys who got run over on the highway yesterday. And you know, they were lamenting on how a man could leave his home to go out and earn a day's work to take care of his family, and he not return, and how men are disregarded in our society and taken for granted. Because you know, I in my own self, I'm going through stuff, and at the end of the day, I say, God alone knows what a man goes through when the day comes and keeps it all together and holds it all together. Not all men are wired the same way, you know. Some men break. When you pile on that last straw, as it were, on the camel back, some men just give. They just break, right? And all of this I am saying, and we are saying, we have been saying that some of these things are avoidable. You know?
Correct. And I mean,
The fallout of it, for example, where the young lives are being taken in the midst of the chaos, those things are avoidable because there were alternatives that, if those alternatives were put in place, lives could have been saved.
Correct, correct. And your take on the hospital bacteria outbreak, Wendell. What's your take on that? I mean, your personal take is a subjective one. Nobody can hold it against you.
Yeah.
Um, I did hear a nurse calling today, and she made an interesting point. What she was saying, she said that people are blaming the nurses and doctors, and I mean, she says it's understandably so because they are the ones that are working there. But based on what she said, as I mean, I don't know how true it is. Based on what she said, the persons who were hired to continue to sanitize these areas from these things, what this is their speciality to do. Those persons, for some reason, she's not sure if it was a loss of contract or whatever, were not doing that, were not able to do that based on the fact that I don't know, some level of retrenchment. This is, as I said, this is all hearsay based on what she said. And they are being wrongfully blamed, she's saying, because it isn't their job, or they are not trained to possibly sanitize the ward from these bacteria and sort of stuff.
Bro, at the end of the day, the general public, the citizenry has been lamenting the condition of the healthcare system. They have been lamenting the lack of proper equipment, the lack of medicine, the lack of a number of services and things that are required for use in the hospitals, like lack of beds and all of these things, right? So at the end of the day, we cannot blame the workers. I will not hold the workers in the hospital responsible if the workers are not given what they need to carry out their function, right?
Correct.
And if someone is hired as a nurse or a doctor, I cannot expect those people to do the job of a janitor or the job of someone who is responsible for sanitizing the work environment, right? So it all comes back at the end of the day to those who are overhead, those who have oversight over the workers, right? You and I both know we have people working for us.
Correct.
The customer does not hold the worker in our business responsible for the
Correct.
goods and services that we offer. They hold us, who are the owners or
Management.
managers of the business, responsible, right? So at the end of the day, the fingers point to where it points, and that is straight back to the Ministry of Health, the minister, and by extension, those who are in charge of the minister.
Correct. Correct. Totally agreed. What I've found, what I've really been looking at these scenarios when the land, as I alluded to, a number of things and I mean solutions, as I rightly said, that we put in place that could have been implemented. And I still want to stay on that scenario with the babies that lost their life, because I mean that is yet another tragedy that now allows us, unfortunately, to highlight something else. It's for a while, it's been a while, we've always, and as I said, I will read the Joint Select Committee proposals in a bit that was made by the Joint Select Committee, that we've been suggesting paternity leave, the legislation of paternity leave, and meaningful paternity leave. Not the 2 to 3 days that we see is given to fathers most of the time by some company policy or some state board policy or something of the sorts. That 2 to 3 days that you would see they get everywhere, from fire service to police service to everything else. We lamented the value of the father being able to be there to develop a bond with the child meaningfully, the father being there to support the mother, whether it be mentally, whether it be physically, hands-on support. Just companionship is important during that bringing up of a child, from the prenatal to the immediate postnatal stages. we highlighted the value of the father being there, because even for him, it does something when it comes from the transition of manhood to fatherhood, being part of the nurturing process. And as we said, have lobbied something, we have called for something, we have written about something, we've spoken to Parliament directly about continuously. And the reason that it came across the mind this week, when I heard about the loss of the lives of these babies, is that the understanding is the mother who has maternity leave, rather, that is legislated, she will still proceed to go on to maternity leave, and she will proceed to do so now in grief in this particular scenario, because now you're talking about the loss of the baby's life, and possibly even more in a position of bereavement, because this time was actually not meant for time to be alone, but time to bond, a time that they envisioned would actually be a joyful experience, even though it would have been a challenging task, because we know babies are also, I mean, they come with their challenges when you're taking care of them. But however, it's part of the whole family bonding building experience, and that is what we were advocating for the father to be a part of. But this has intrigued a very, very particular question, at least in my mind. What would be the position now of the father who possibly was getting 2 to 3 days leave? Know that yes, he may get some bereavement that may last a couple days, 5 to 7 days, I'm sure, with pay maximum possibly. But what is his position, Wendell and Shervon, when he now has to go back out to work, leave his wife, who is now going to be distraught, the mother of the child, leave her alone, then not only leave her alone, go to work and face the immediate challenges of being in the workspace after this happening? Possibly people who may not have bad intention, but continuously coming at him with, boy, we sorry for you, how you going, how you keeping, still have to be the rock for his child's mother, the past child's mother, still also for himself now have to deal with his own bereavement and his grief. This is where I am saying that had there been that paternity leave, that allotment of time in similarity to what was given to the mother, this would have been an opportunity where the father, not in this particular scenario, is now given to heal together with the mother. The father is now given the opportunity to be that companion that the mother is going to need, and to receive that companionship from the mother as well, as they grieve together or as they go through bereavement together. He is now in a position where he has to now still focus on getting back to work before he's even gotten the opportunity to grieve. What about that consideration, Wendell or Shervon, if you there? Have we considered that? Wendell?
Yeah, so I can tell you firsthand from experience that it is not an easy thing to deal with that sort of loss, Ronnie, because I've had that experience in my early years as a young man, and it's something that is very tormenting, and it's very trying to deal with that and work at the same time. So I feel it for that gentleman. Um, Having had the experience with more than one female and more than one type of female, I can tell you also that during those times of emotional trauma, that that woman needs her husband. She needs the support of her husband, because they're both going through that together, right? And in the absence of leave that permits him to be there at home to support her, and quite possibly receive support from her, because I mean, at the end of the day, they are the only ones that will know what they're going through and would be able to talk with each other and comfort each other in their loss, right? So,
Correct.
I mean, this is something that we dealt with before the Joint Select Committee, and today the situation still exists when nothing has been done, right?
Correct. Correct.
And had something been put in place by the powers that be upon our recommendation, today this gentleman and this lady could have been benefiting from that.
Correct. That is the point. That is the point, Wendell. That
Good
is the point
afternoon,
exactly.
good
So,
afternoon, brothers.
hey, Shervon, good to see you, bro. So, Shervon, we talking about this scenario with the babies that die. You know, we spoke about the scenario with Mr. Lalit before, but we've reached to the point where we're talking about paternity leave and how it may have been able to benefit some of these fathers now, even allowing them the opportunity or allotting them some time to grieve with their loved one. What's your take on that?
Yeah, good. I mean, I was listening in transit, and good afternoon again, brothers. Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago, and those listening internationally. Yes, I too would want to offer my condolences to the families of all those who are
Hmm.
impacted by this tragedy that took place at Port Spain Hospital in recent time. And as you all have been saying, I mean, people look at what we say and what we do and the things we've been advocating for over the years
Hmm.
and perceive incorrectly that we are the opposite of a feminist movement, right? That we just screaming and shouting for male rights over women and dominance over women. It's foolishness. Because at the end of the day, the things that we've been advocating for exactly this, right?
Correct.
Exactly this. I remember some months ago we posted something about paternity leave, Rondell, and
Correct.
I remember the number of women who
Hmm.
responded to that post saying how grateful they would have been had if they had only had the opportunity for their spouses to be home with them during that period. Some of
Wow.
them spoke about postpartum depression
Hmm.
and the difficulty of not having their spouse around through that period, and having to when you just want the people in your home at least, at most,
Hmm.
in fact, right? You ain't feeling to deal with all your relatives and extended family. You just want your spouse with you. I remember some of them sharing those experiences, and here we are in a situation of tragedy, right? And we almost act as if the father, as you all pointed out earlier in this, as if his heart isn't broken
Ah, yeah.
equally,
She's an
right?
angel.
So the just Trinidad and Tobago, the Maternity Protection Act is a piece of legislation that gives rights to mothers who are in the workplace, right? Even those who are not in the workplace, and that's another conversation we'll have.
Hmm.
But when you hear people talk about maternity leave, are going on maternity leave, it's the Maternity Protection Act that gives you, right, all of the benefits that's ascribed to you. And one of the things the Maternity Protection Act speaks to is that even if a child is stillborn, or even if a child is born, you give birth to a live child and the child dies, right? A few weeks thereafter, you still get all the benefits of your maternity leave. And when I say benefits, you get the time, right? Yes, you get the money, but at that point in your life, like this tragedy right now, the last thing you're studying is money and all of those things.
Hmm.
But you get the time to be able to grieve and process and get the help that you need to process the grief that you're going through. You know what our father has to do, as Ronald was pointing out? Save and accept in the circumstances where we have a few private and probably one or two, I know TAP being one of them, state institutions that give a week or two paternity leave.
Hmm.
He has to pack up and go back to work.
Wow.
He have his own grief to deal with. He has the support he's trying to give to his spouse, right? And he had to go back to work and deal with it at the same time.
Hmm.
And then we wonder, why is the rate of suicides among men so high as compared to women?
True.
It's because there is very little consideration that a man is going through the same things that the mother of the child is going through. All this thing about, oh, she carried the child, so she know how it feel. So what you think we doing all that time? What do you
Correct.
think all that time through that process of caring? And I would like some women to call today. I would really like some mothers to call the program today and talk about the role that your spouses played in helping you through this period of pregnancy, because it is really, I am really aggrieved, gentlemen, that the men who form part of the family in this situation
Mm.
may not have access to any paternity leave, and if they do, we know it is minimal.
Correct. And agreed. And that is the thing that is upsetting to me, Shervon. If you guys will allow me to become upset. Because you've lobbied, you've tabled, you've marched, you've gone before Parliament, you've made suggestion, you've given solution. They have agreed with the solutions. They have agreed with the suggestion. They've made directions to the different departments, whether it be the family court, whether it be the judiciary, whether it be the Ministry of Social Development, as I will read in the Joint Select Committee, in the Joint Select Committee suggestions in a bit. They've made recommendation to the Attorney General Office to treat with a number of these things that we are highlighting since these tragedies took place. Parental alienation, paternity leave, and even at some level paternity fraud as well, because we've seen even allegations being swirling, brothers, as into the paternity of little Amara. I've spoken to her father. Her father, despite whatever it is, that is his daughter. And that is all he's concerned about. But long and short of the story, I mean, Saturday I had to talk with him a little bit and counsel with him a little bit because he was upset. He got upset with his mother too. Because he went on, I saw that he went on a particular show and somebody was on the show with him and somebody was telling him that, hey, that child is not your child and these things. And he called me and he was frantic. He was frantic Saturday because he's trying to find a place. He was trying to locate a place where he could get a paternity test done, given the state of the child at this point. And I mean, I had to guide him and tell him if it is what he wanted to do, what he needed to do. And he could have it done if he chose to. You understand? I would never encourage or discourage it. I told him it is his decision based on how he feels. He hasn't asked to proceed any further, but at the point, because, brothers, this is what was swirling around. And he knows that this could be the last of what he's going to see of his baby girl tomorrow, because tomorrow is the funeral, right? I know he told me, he said, boy, Mr. Fields, I don't know what to do to get the media to not come. I hope that they would respect his wishes if it's that what the family doesn't want, and they respect their wishes as much as possible. But as I said, even when it comes to things like paternity as well, because in an instance like this, had those things like DNA testing be instituted in particular scenarios pertaining, even though he wasn't before the court, but pertaining to the court, a lot of these things that cause disaster, a lot of these things that lead to tragedy, a lot of these things that lead to doubt would not be taking place. And as I said just now, brothers, it is disheartening to have advocated well, to have supplied evidence, to have given information that went and worked towards providing a solution, to have been promised and then see nothing, and then hear only something, when a tragedy happened, to me is a slap in the face of Trinidad and Tobago. It's a slap in the face. It means I don't care. And it goes back to what we spoke of last week, particularly I know that Shervon loves that point. What are we asking for from our members of parliament? All of them on both sides. There are no government and no opposition here with me. It's members of parliament. I will never tell nobody who to vote for. But long and short of this story, you have to demand more of them. You must demand more of them. This is an election year coming up, and specifically men, you must demand more. Mr. Lelich right now, Shervon and Wendell, is in such a state of disbelief that he doesn't understand or believe to himself that this could happen. And if it happened, like the whole world will turn over and it have a million men's match and everything just, he is in a level of disbelief. But for us, we've seen it happen so many times that the story has become hot for one season, and by the week after, they bury the young children who's lost their life sacrificially, and then nothing again. So I am saying again to Trinidad and Tobago, I am saying again, make your MPs tell you how they're going to impact your personal life, how they're going to protect your children, how they're going to provide you with access to your children if you don't receive access. Yes, it have NGOs and organizations that assist as best as they could, but you must give your member of parliament work to do when he goes to parliament. We have represented fathers throughout this country, whether he is a UNC constituency or PNM constituency, and that's the only two we have. We have represented fathers from everywhere. Yet I honestly have barely ever heard, Shervon, you could correct me if you've heard them, hear any type of advocacy for the proper promotion or the equality or equity, rather, as we love to say, when it comes for fathers playing their parental roles or being allowed to play the parental roles. Have you heard anything of these sorts that I may have missed, Shervon, anywhere along the way?
No, I haven't. I have not. And even despite the things that have happened and continue to happen, you don't. In fact, what you hear is the same one-sided slant where they use women's issues. And let me make it very clear and put it in underline and bold. They use women and they use women issues, right? Because that seems to be what sparks fires and gets people on their bandwagon, and the things that they use at the end of the day, women and women's issues, they don't care about it,
Boy.
Because I hope women see where some of the things that you believe they've been advocating for, what have you received from it?
Correct.
On the topic, when we'll discuss this, we have to set aside a whole program to talk about domestic violence. Where have you seen benefits from the approaches that they have proclaimed to put forward on your behalf? And when we say they, I said it last week and I said the week before, I'm not talking about any one government, right?
Correct.
Because these are issues that is beyond, these are issues from since the beginning of time in this country. So do not, as Rondell keeps saying, stop allowing yourself to be used. Stop allowing your vote, there's a saying you use, Rondell, where you say stop giving away your vote so cheap.
Stop giving it away.
Right? Stop giving it away, because, and he rightfully asked us now, has your party card, everybody, I see a gentleman messaging on here right now, messaging about an issue that he has with his daughter. Feel free to call in. Material Ailey, Abra Ailey. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, right? The numbers to call in are 222-8255. The toll-free number is 866-525-1099, or you can WhatsApp on 868-318-1021. The numbers again, 222-8255. The toll-free number 866-525-1099, or you can WhatsApp on 868-318-1021. The point we're making is, has your party card, anybody who has had a family issue, and not just before the courts, even in a situation like this, you can't access paternity leave, you can't access proper men's health programs, right? And any issue affecting men and fathers, has your party card given you that benefit? Waving around that, has that given you that benefit? Because the answer is no. So this is beyond political sides, right? This is beyond political side. You have to speak up. And I always tell people who vote, right, who partake in the electoral process, your vote means that you have more rights to say to the party you voted for, you are not representing me.
Correct.
You are not representing my interests.
Correct.
You have rights to say that. I don't know where we get this thing that when you vote, you care about the party you vote for.
Correct. You're breaking party allegiance.
Yeah, you breaking allegiance. Everything they do must is all good and good. But
Hmm.
come on, man. But let me don't stray away from the issue. Let me point out something to you all that happened recently in South Africa, October of last.
Before you point that Shervon, because that is a very, very, very relevant thing you're going to raise. Before I do that, I want to, as I was alluding to before, and as I mentioned actually directly before, we've advocated for a lot, so much until we were brought before a joint select committee in 2018, where we made representation. It was called the Gender Equality and Fatherhood. We made representation. We provided data, as Wendell spoke about. We got we were the beneficiaries of a project that the Emancipation Support Committee had through the European Union. We always thank Ms. Zakia Wadada from the Emancipation Support Committee for reaching out to us and helping us get the research that we needed. As Wendell said, we would have been making the allegations all the time based on what we were seeing, based on what we were hearing, but we didn't have the evidence. We would have gotten that evidence, submitted that evidence, and made a number of suggestions during that JSC meeting. And in that JSC, if you don't know what it is, that's when you're brought together. We were brought ourselves. I think Children Authority was there. The Ministry of Social Development was there. The judiciary was supposed to be there, but it did not come. A number of organizations that were treating with what was the perceived bias against men held at the family courts. I want to read to you what were the recommendations, the summarized recommendations. It isn't much. I know some people don't like reading. I'll try to make it as interesting as possible, but it is critical and important because this is from 2018. And when you see the suggestions that were made, you may say to yourself, just as we are saying, had they followed through with what they promised to do, we may have saved a life or two. Or in this scenario that is so tragic and unfortunate, these fathers now, who may not be able or the recipients of the benefits of paternity leave to be able to grieve, just as Shervon spelled out so well, we may ask ourselves, had we done something or our leaders done something at that point, we may have avoided some of these things and we may be able to grant a benefit to some people going through a hard time right now. Right? So here it goes. The recommendations by the Joint Select Committee on Human Rights, Equality and Diversity in response to the submissions made by the representatives of the Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago and the other government ministries, because I said we weren't there alone, at the public hearing are detailed in the 8th report of the Joint Select Committee on Human Rights, Equality and Diversity, which was presented to the Senate on September 21st, 2018, and to the House of Representatives, here we're going to, Shervon, on September 26th, 2018. Some of the key recommendations are as follows. Given the increasing number of single parents in Trinidad and Tobago, this is not our recommendations here. We made the recommendations, provided the solutions, and the Joint Select Committee here is now making a recommendation to the Parliament to say, hey, we listen to these fellas. These fellas made their points. They provided suggestions, and this is what we say needs to be done. This parliamentarian saying this. Given the increasing number of single parents in Trinidad and Tobago, and this is number one, and the critical impact of data on the creation of programs and services within government agencies, the committee recommends that the Central Statistical Office include questions on single parented, inclusive of the sex of the single parent, in the 2010 population and housing census. Number 2, the committee recommends that the judiciary institute a training workshop for judges and magistrates in order to mitigate possible cultural perceptions that may impact their judgments, decisions, rulings within the court system in Trinidad and Tobago. So this is the second one. The same thing you keep hearing us up to today saying, that there's a culture that is still existing. Number 2, the Joint Select Committee agreed with us and decided, or to state, the committee decided to recommend that the judiciary institute a training workshop for judges and magistrates so that they do not display bias against fathers when making the judgments. I wonder if they ever did that. I wonder if they ever had that cultural training session. And if they did, what were the outcomes of it? Number 3, the committee recommends that the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, the Office of the Prime Minister, and the Victims and Witness Support Unit review the policies which guide the distribution of their programs and services to ensure it is equitable for male and female single parents. One of the key things we highlighted back then that brought them to this is the fact that men were not allowed to access public assistance grants from the Ministry of Social Development in those days. And the Ministry of Social Development had a bad cultural practice, though it was not legislative, to forbid men who needed assistance for their children for applying for public assistance grants only on the premise that they were male and deemed the head of the household. They were told explicitly that if they were women or if it was the mother, they would have gotten assistance. But because of their gender, they couldn't. So by number 3, we could see the committee here now making recommendations not only to social development, but also to the Office of the Prime Minister, also to the Victim and Witness Support Unit, to ensure that every program that they roll out, that single fathers who as much recipients and benefit from these programs as single mothers would have been doing. Number 4, I can still say sometimes that I look at somebody, if we're just supposed to talk about the ads, Shervon and Wendell, that we see from some of these ministries, just the ads still show more bias towards ads that benefit women. All these institutions, even the gender-based violence unit, I have never seen an ad where a man has been displayed as the victim, always as the perpetrator. Yet,
remember you did one, when we were going to do a show about it, they released it the morning. Remember that?
But
they have one.
The imbalance, they have one compared to how many on the next side. Whereas they are instructed by the Joint Select Committee to be balanced. Number 4, we nearly finished. The committee recommends that the Chief Personal Officer, CPO, include, fellas, listen to this, paid paternity leave in the revised guidelines for contract employment in government ministries, departments, statutory authorities, and the Tobago House of Assembly, and the completion of the revised guidelines by December 2018. You heard that? The committee give them a date to do it by, by December 2018. We are in April 2024. Can you believe that? Number 5, the committee supports the Single Fathers Association Trinidad and Tobago's recommendation for legislation which ensures mandatory paternity testing before a maintenance application and or order is made and or given. Shervon, tell me why we still advocating for things that the parliament instructed to be done. It ain't finished yet. I just had to take a breath with that one. We still lamenting for this legislation, for these things, like if we haven't spoken about it before. So much that some people always have so much ideas that tell us, go and do this, go and do that. When we have a committee Joint Select Committee of Parliamentarians that saying they support our recommendation. The committee recommends that the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs amend the Family Law, Guardianship of Minors, Domicile and Maintenance Act, Chapter 4608, to include mandatory DNA test for paternity prior to the issuance of a maintenance order and penalties for breaches of court orders related to custodial arrangements. Shervon, what we could say again? The committee, we have spoken about setting penalty for persons who breach access orders, who committing parental alienation, who don't want the other party to see the child even though the court ordered to see the child. Here is the committee, parliamentarians, instructing the Attorney General's office to draft legislation to include first, before you make a maintenance order, that you guarantee that that person is in fact the biological father of that child, because we know the consequence for non-payment of maintenance. They're directly telling them, the committee telling the AG to do so. And additionally to that, they are instructing them also to put in place put in place legislation to deal with breaches of access and court orders pertaining to custodial arrangements. What are we to say again? What are we to do again if even the parliamentarians that we have elected agree with us? Yet they who are supposed to do the drafting and they are the ones who are supposed to be bringing things to the table aren't doing it. Let me end it off. The committee recommends, this is the final one, that the courts and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service employ the option highlighted in Section 27(2) of the Family Law, Guardianship of Minors, Domicile and Maintenance, Section 27(2)(a), that is, not the B like they love, before committing the individual to prison. Let me read it again. The committee recommends that the courts and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service employ the option highlighted in Section 27(2)(a) of the Family Law, Guardianship of Minors, Domicile and Maintenance Act, Chapter 4608, before committing the individual to prison. Section 27(2)(a), as we always speak about, is the part of the legislative works already in existence that speaks to the seizing of goods, the seizing of chattels, the seizing of property, opposed to going to Section 27(2)(b), which is on the road of sending it to Section 27(3), which leads to incarceration of the person right away. Because we recognize that incarcerating the person benefits the child in no way. Because the intent of maintenance is to have the person willingly participate in the financial upkeep of the child. So if you imprison that person, you are certain and guaranteed you're not going to get any financial output from them. You are now going to put the state, however, also at a position where there's financial expenditure on them. So it makes no sense whatsoever. We have made further suggestion to add to the legislation of Section 27(2)(a), where the person be equipped or the ankle bracelet be placed on the feet of the ankles of the person who is in breach of the maintenance order, and they are set on some stringent curfews. They have a certain time they could be out. They have certain places they cannot be. They can't be in no casino. You can't be in no bar. You can't be in none of these type of places that will cause you to waste expense or to waste income rather, when you should or you have shook the responsibility of maintaining your child. If you do not have a reasonable and justifiable cause for not being able to make that payment, which is another discussion on the whole that entertains Section 27(4). Finally, it is critical that there is commitment to the implementation. This is how it is ended off. It is critical that that there is commitment to the implementation of the recommendations presented in this issue paper so that fathers who are seeking to play a more meaningful role in the lives of their children receive the support of the relevant institutions to do so. Children have the right to benefit from a positive relationship with both their parents. What's your views on that, Shervon?
You are saying this
After
is
taking,
2018, right?
yeah,
And we're in 2024. The Joint Select Committee of Parliament making recommendations to the AG, as you said, the Attorney General, the Office of the Attorney General. And here we are in 2024, and we can't tick off any of those major recommendations being done in 2024.
correct.
Right? And again, I go back to my last rant. When you give your vote, everybody who messaging us this evening, I've seen the messages, Mr. Warner, I've seen your message about the issue you're facing right now. Everyone who is messaging us this evening, when these politicians come around to your community in a few weeks' time, right? Because we have an election bell going to be rung sometime in the near future. When they come around, on both sides, are you explaining to them your situation? We will post, and we've posted before, we will put it again. We will put up these recommendations from the Joint Select Committee. When they come around, I want you to show your parliamentarian it and ask them, why haven't I seen you advocating for these things when you are sitting in Parliament? Instead of all the rubbish old talk, back and forth and picong, all it is be giving each other. Right?
Correct.
Because while you're doing that, I am deprived of my rights as a father, deprived of my rights as a man, deprived from my children, right? While you kicks in, that as Calypsonian say that long time, kicks in the Parliament, right? While you kicks in, why am I not hearing about these issues? And that is what we need to do. We need to hold them accountable. Because what you are saying to me there, Rondell, and to Trinidad and Tobago, what that whole exercise was just a gimmick, man.
Oh boy.
Then.
Correctly so.
Because if after all that research and all that thought has gone into creating this document, all it is for the past so much years is just sitting on somebody's desk or in somebody's wardrobe collecting dust.
Correct. Correct. And you know what's real hurtful, Shervon? And there's something you sent in our chat and something I saw again too. The exact same thing. You sent a snapshot of what Shervon said versus what Shannon Lalit said. And it was the exact same thing. Maybe if I had an opportunity to acquire custody, because nobody knows with a certainty, maybe our children would still be alive. And it's disturbing to me to really read.
And Rondell, I'm going to deal with that for a second. I've been seeing people commenting because we saw the Express carry the article as well as the interview, right?
Right.
Oh, I want to see evidence that he really went before the court and so forth and so forth. Let me tell you all something. What we are dealing with here is not a case, We are dealing with a system issue. And I'm saying, if there is, let's say for argument's sake, Mr. Lalit didn't go to before a magistrate. Let me just say for argument's sake. Does that change the fact about the systemic issues that we're dealing with?
No way.
That doesn't change the fact of anything. We are dealing with systemic issues, and we know that men are treated. Let me use the right term for you, Ronald. This is from the South African ruling.
Right.
Men, fathers' role is treated as marginal. Right? We were discussing this earlier today. The High Court in South Africa has made a ruling in October of last year, right? The court found that the provisions within their Basic Conditions of Employment Act, which would be similar, I guess, to our Industrial Relations Act, the court
Right.
found that the provisions unfairly discriminate between mothers and fathers and between parents whose child is born of the mother. Right? And this is the court's word. It says, in the first respect, the court found unfair discrimination between mothers and fathers, where Article 25 grants mothers a 4-month maternity leave and fathers only 10 days of parental leave.
Wow.
Both parents are able and should have the right to provide complete care for their child, and restricting the father's right to parental leave undermines the father's dignity by treating his role as marginal. Let me repeat those last words there. Restricting the father's right to parental leave undermines the father's dignity by treating his role as marginal. And
True.
that is what we have been doing in Trinidad and Tobago, treating the roles of fathers as marginal. I'll take that, we'll put that on a jersey, on a banner when we march through the streets.
Correct.
We have been treating fathers' role as marginal in this society, but then we crying out, we're fathers. But
Correct.
we continue to marginalize the role of men and fathers in our society.
Very well said. And that's very, very true. Again, very true statement. And I mean, it to me, it's good to hear the judgment. It's brilliant to hear the judgment. But I always ask myself, why and how is this a global perception of fatherhood? I mean, I know they'll have a number of reasons and people will make all kind of justifications. And if so, we are seeing a shift in many parts of the world. Why so are we so hesitant when it comes to those things to shift also? We make every shift when it pertains many times to women's issues, some justifiably so, some to me not so justifiably so. But when it comes to males issues, where we have data, where we have precedent from other areas, from other nations, even where we have parliamentary committees making or agreeing with or recommending things that we have suggested as solutions, why is it so hard for change to come about still? And let me tell you why, Shervon. It is because we as men don't value, as I said, ourselves enough. And we have to do that. As I said, all they need to hear, the politicians even know, they know to themselves why they say what you just said, the mamagisms that they put for single mothers or women's issues, who many of them really honestly don't care about. But they know that they can inflame to their advantage or to their disadvantage. So there are times are guarded with what they say, and other times hypocritical with what they say, so that they yield the type of response they need, because they know women react, women respond. But if we as men don't see the value in responding to these things, because you don't think it applies to you, because you're not going through it right now, that is part of the problem, Shervon. That is part of the problem. Because you didn't lose your child as yet, or because you are still married and think this will never happen to you, or because you haven't been parentally alienated, or because you haven't found out, or you haven't believed or haven't experienced what it feels like to be told a child is yours and it isn't yours. That is our problem. We men must show concern about ourselves. We must be ready to react. We must be ready to be proactive most times. But even when a time call for time for a response, we must be able to respond. We must be able to stand. We must be able to say, this is wrong. This isn't right. Men, for some reason, and I can say it in the places where I sit on board and XYZ, that when you stand for men or stand for yourself as a man, some persons, many times it may be female, try to give off the perception that by your stand, it is a declaration of toxic masculinity, or it is a declaration of you wanted to dominate because you've highlighted something that is credible. And I am saying to men that you cannot be afraid of it. I am saying that if something tramples upon your right as a human being or the right of your child, you must be willing to stand, to advocate, to object against, and to be willing to provide the change that we need to see. But for some reason, and I think it's something that stems so far, I don't think we have time to discuss it. But it's something so psychological because in the way in which the world works today, you understand? That men are afraid to say and stand against things that they know aren't right. Who in the world here could say that they don't see the injustice or the discrimination or the benefit that men are left out when it comes to things like even paternity leave, Shervon? When it was rightfully pointed out to us by the young lady or the lady who commented that men pay as much increments towards national insurance as women do. So even an economical debate is one of no significance because men making contributions to upon investigation with the national insurance, with the NIB, they admit, and as we said, the women who are unemployed and their wives benefit from their contributions, yet they cannot contribute. So look at the circumstances of these 11 fathers. If it was one child, I think one was a twin, so it may be 10. Those who may be working, because I'm sure out of those 10, some working for some state authority or state organization, they don't have the opportunity to say that I could rest and relax, that my work is not an issue right now. Because I know I was about to proceed onto paternity leave, or I had already proceeded upon paternity leave, and the legislative works has protected my, as I said, my allotment of time, because money don't really say much at that point in time, where I could stay home with my wife, stay home with my lover, comfort, console, and get through this together. They have an additional added stress. What I going and tell my boss? How much days I could scrape up? What I going to sacrifice? Am I going to give out my vacation? Let me take out my vacation one time. All because there's been no provision in place set up for them. Whose fault is that?
And I want to remind you, you spoke about national insurance benefits. Remember, even mothers who are unemployed gain maternity benefits from
Correct.
the father's contributions to NIB.
Correct, that's what I said.
Yeah. So here this in Trinidad and Tobago, the fathers don't benefit from the contribution. Right? They don't get time off. Right? They don't get extra money in the pocket to see about to contribute towards this child coming into the world. No, the mother gets the benefits. I want to remind you, those listening,
let me take
the numbers to call.
our call on the line.
Okay.
Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon. I'm listening to the conversation and I really want to contribute. I just want to say I fully support the Fathers Association and this call for paternity leave for fathers based on my own experience. I remember when my husband and I had our first son, he was able to stay home with me. I mean, when we had our second son, it was totally different because he got the 5 days paternity leave, And then he had to go back out. And not too long after that, I realized that I really was not able to make it on my own. So he ended up having to take vacation leave to stay home with me and my 2 children while I was able to have my maternity leave, and that was totally unfair. So I just want to say I really support the Fathers Association, and I really wish the government would do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I had to thank that caller for calling in because, as Shervon indicated, your testimony is important as women. Your testimony is important. You understand? This is something that we've advocated for, something they've agreed to from a parliamentary level. Shervon, the date is here. It should be revised guidelines by December 2018. They gave them a timeline, and yet nothing till 2024.
And I'm saying, bro, if we have to take the government to court like South Africa, that person in South Africa,
I got to do that.
it's very wrong enough. Why do I have to carry my parliamentary representatives to court to represent my rights? Why?
Weird. Very weird.
Where's any sense in that? I have to carry you to court to represent my rights? Come on, now, man. Now, if we have to do it, Rondell, we have to do it, you know?
Correct.
Because look how long it's going on. But really and truly, tell me, both opposition and government, because you all have both played these roles in different dispensation. One of you was government, the other was opposition.
Correct.
Is this what we have to do? Is this? And I'm warning the chief personnel officer, do not come with no proposal for no 1 week maternity leave or paternity leave. Don't come with that nonsense. Because you hear me just quote the ruling from the High Court in South Africa. They had paternity leave there, 10 days. And the court said that is garbage. And I didn't go into what the court recommended shared parental leave of 4 months. Right? So do not come and feel you could bring piss on we foot until we rain. Don't do that. And say, oh well, we give men paternity leave. Barely anything. Think of the situation here that these parents going through who lost their children in Port of Spain General Hospital.
Correct.
Tell me, what would 10 days and 2 weeks do for them in these situations?
Correct.
Right?
Because in this situation, Shervon, is entirely different, you know. As I said, we were advocating for this previously, for the bonding experience, so that mommy who just called could have benefited from what she didn't benefit in the second time. But think about this scenario from tragedy. This could cause husbands and wives to separate. I've already gotten some information from a reporter that some of them on ice water. This is a time that they need to have the support to be together. So in both instances, because we sometimes don't, and we may get most of the times the testimony or the experience of the persons whose children lived. But this is an experience and such a tragic one, because it isn't one person. This could be at least 10 families. You understand that is going to go through this type of trauma, that will need each other to support each other, but they will need money to live too. So the father will have to go. And hear this, Shervon. Let's say the mother not working. So yes, she home all the time. You understand? So they have no maternity leave in place or whatsoever. But now self she want the father there. So as I say, it's not just about money, it's about his involvement, his being there to support her during this tragic. You know, when he leave her and she home alone, and what she might be thinking and what she blaming herself for, and while he in work, he going through the same thing, thinking about what he didn't do right, and why he didn't carry he wife private, and his brother tell him to carry she private, and he thought he didn't have the money where to find it, and it's his fault because he didn't work hard enough. Do we consider these things? Shervon, I'm telling you, these are the things going through the mind of these fathers at this point.
Yep.
The fear that they're going to have to leave their wife at some point, not knowing they may go to work, God forbid, with postpartum depression and worse yet with tragedy and loss of life. Something she decide that she could be put on suicide watch. He know.
And that's what I say, Rondell, and the father in this circumstance, oftentimes there's no opportunity for you to process your own grief.
Cheese
And
on it.
this is why sometimes you would, as I say, look in the last couple of weeks, and I would like to write, because we've seen it coming up in the newspaper ever so often, to get what is the updated stats on suicides for this year so far. Right? This is why, though, you see men, they call it a day.
Correct.
They give up on life at the end of the day. Because
No support.
things continue to pile on, no support, no space, no room. Because as you say, he caring for his wife, he had to go back to work, he had to deal with the demands of the job, he had to deal with what going through with his spouse, he had to and his own grief is building inside of him like a time bomb.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Remember the numbers to call, folks: 222-8255, 222-8255. The toll-free number is 866-525-1099. And WhatsApp 318-1021.
Shervon,
And Wendell Wayne.
on the board. Shervon?
Yes, I'm seeing messages on the board, David.
Okay,
Yeah.
a lot of messages are on the board.
All right. So Yvette says, I don't mind paternity increase, but the father must contribute to taking care of the child. Yvette, I don't follow that message at all. At all. You can feel free to call in and expound on that, because I don't understand that.
You see, there's a subjective belief. Let me treat you that one time. There's a subjective belief most times, and I've heard many. When I advocated for paternity leave in certain spaces, not talking about when we advocate together as Single Fathers Association, amongst other advocates, that's why I use the word I in that scenario. The first thing, two things they bring up, Shervon, is one, the economic loss to the country and whatever. But as we just spoke of, the man makes his national insurance contributions, right? So that debunks that. And the other thing is that, so if a man take it and he go on in the bar whole day, what about the mother? You understand? So why isn't there the same suggestion that the mother could take it to and take each child and drop it by she mother? But long and short of the story, the reasoning is that you must have it provided. And I am certain most people will utilize it, just as this woman here alluded to. Many fathers want to be involved in their child's life. But culture again will always cause us to take the minimum scenario and make it appear as though it is the maximum.
But I want to flip Yvette's statement on her, Rondell.
Mm-hmm.
What did mothers do, right, to earn maternity leave? Right? Because that way you're saying, as long as he contribute, sure. What did you do to earn it? Both of you had a part in bringing this child into the world, right? Both of you all had sex to bring this child into the world.
Correct.
Right? What did you do to earn it? Okay, you carry the child and you bear the child. So you carry the child and bear the child. So are you telling me that, and this is where I just get tired up with people bringing their personal experiences and broad brushing everybody with it. Because I'm assuming it's a personal experience you're referring to. So all the men who are going out and working, coming back home to take care of their pregnant wife, the caller who just called and gave the example, right? Who are doing everything that they're supposed to do. So you tell me, so you are saying that disqualify what? That is not enough? What it is you're looking for?
And I'm again there, Shervon. I often say, yes, the mother carries the child within her womb. But a father, and many women have husbands who've played that role, and many women have men in their lives who's played that role. As much as we try to make it sound like it's in the minimum, I believe it is in the maximum. I know it to be so. That carry the mother and the child. Every clinic, they're there. Sometimes they are the ones, even after the child born, take the day to go and carry the child to take the shots. Some mothers don't like to go. I'm not saying all. They didn't want to go and see the baby get shot, they go cry. It have mothers so. You understand? It have fathers so, but it have mothers and fathers that work together and give the same output. When mommy feeling sick of her belly and she want this and she want that and sometimes she don't want nothing, you know. She just want to see if the man go. If he will get off the bed 11 o'clock in the night and go and get rituals, go and get that for me now, the baby will get mark on his skin if I ain't get it. Go and do this seminar. Or when she irritable, maybe women, we have to have a discussion about men, how they manage during the woman's pregnancy, you know. Because you get a surge of emotions and an emotion that they most likely wouldn't even realize. Because the consistent, sometimes they're more aggravated, especially women who have a lot of vomiting to do. We know how vomiting does aggravate each of us. So sometimes the woman needs something, she vomiting right through. You the one with the bag, you have to pick it up, you fold it, you go, you throw it away, you have the thing, you're there with her, making sure she have everything. It takes a level of commitment, passion, love to do this as well. You don't underscore that. So I always say, and the reason the man does that is because he understands that the woman is performing not a duty by choice, but a duty that she was created to perform. And it is his duty to ensure that she has the easiest journey performing that duty. So he takes the strain of the woman and the child on him, even before the child is born. And as you rightly said, in some experiences, you may not have received that. But that doesn't mean that isn't happening, or that doesn't mean that shouldn't be the precedent. And that is where we must make that point on. If you cannot tell men to do certain things, if there's no precedent set for them to make that marker on. None whatsoever. You understand? So, if the bar was set there, then you could say something. But there's no setting of the bar to tell a man that, hey, this is the time we're giving you to do this. So it must be done.
Rondell, and I always say to people, don't make your experience everybody else's reality. Right?
Correct.
You may have had a bad experience, and which is unfortunate, but don't make that everybody else's reality. So when you start with the all man bad, and man shouldn't get this until all man do this, and all, no. Your experience isn't everyone's reality.
And let me add something, Shervon.
Right? Don't play your experience, but it's not everybody else's reality.
Correct.
Katian says here, it's disheartening to hear the basic needs that we have to literally beg the authorities to establish.
Wow.
Make the citizenry despondent, to say the least. Right? Kudos to you guys for the advocacy. Material Ailey, Abra Ailey, senior messages. Brother, I cannot read out those messages with person's names and so on and up there. Right? We can't do that. Yeah. You can reach out on our Facebook page, Instagram group. We could talk a bit and understand what the situation is. Or you can call in, and if you are calling in, you can't
don't use no names.
Right? We're not making out nobody. That's not what this is about. Yeah.
Right.
Explain the situation. We could address the situation. We could give you some guidance. Yeah.
Right. Let me add to what you just said there, Shervon. And I want mothers to consider this. And I don't want the young lady feel we attacking her. We saying this out of love. Because we understand how the culture has cultured all of us and a great number of us. And that is why we must say what we must say to sanitize it. You may say that. And while you just made that pronouncement to say, well, here what, that is if the man decide to use it or whatever. And some person might raise that as a justifiable reason, and I'll come to a point with that just now. As a justifiable reason, and then they decide, all right, we're not putting this paternity leave because a group of women have said, nah, them man and them gonna use it. Like if it was for them anyhow, most and not for the man to be able to build that experience with the child. Nah, them ain't gonna help we. So they don't give them it, and the government decides to go in this way of that direction. If you are the mother of his son, you think you've done something good for him?
Excellent point. Excellent point.
You are the mother of his son. What do you think you've just done in his history, in his future? Sorry. The number of mothers, Shervon, that have reached out to me,
Mm-hmm.
who
Yep.
I talking about, because it's years we doing this, almost 14 years. People whose children were 1 year, that is 14 now, People whose children were 10 at the time and fighting, and it's 24 now, that have come to me and said, Mr. Fields, I hated you, Help my son.
Yep.
Help
Yep.
my son now. Because you couldn't understand 10 and 12 years when we were speaking and saying, put these things in place. Some of these things we're talking about, I have articles we put on our chat this morning from as long as 2013, Shervon, with Shervon Reyes. 2013.
Yeah. Yep.
That's 11 years. If a child was born in 2013, there's 11 now.
Yeah.
So my point is this. You are a mother, particularly of sons, or you are an aunt of nephews. You have young men that are somewhere intertwined in your life. You may be a stepmother too. And the reality is, when you talk and you say, let me fight man and fight man, you're not fighting men. You're fighting boys too. You're fighting your own sons too. You're fighting yourself. On the chat, up to this morning on the chat, our grandmother reached out to me. Help us, Mr. Fields. I can't see my grandchild.
Yep.
I can't see my grandchild. So when you think by giving and the thing is, we don't ever ask for what is unjust. That is the thing. We don't ask, Shervon, for what is unjust. When we say no parental alienation or promote shared parenting, it's so that the child has the extra protective arm and access to both mother and father equitably. What's wrong with that? It even gives the mother the opportunity to have a social life.
And there are statistics that show the child, you raise a productive child in that manner, Rondell.
Correct. When we ask for paternity, when we ask, just now, Shervon, just now, when we ask for paternity leave, what is the crime in that? When the woman again will benefit also, even though it is for the man and primarily for his benefit, the woman will benefit, the child will benefit. What is wrong with that? When we ask for paternity fraud, as was recommended here by them, what is wrong with the fact that a man should not be imprisoned or incarcerated for a child he didn't biologically produce? What is wrong with fighting for the right thing? And that is the challenge I have, and the challenge we have, rather, not I. The challenge we have, not only in this organization, all these boys out here, Shervon, we fighting for that for them too, not for us alone. Our days have done course half of our lives already. So I want mothers to keep that in mind. These fellas not fighting women. We are fighting for union. We are fighting so that your young son, even though you hate his father, your young son is not destroyed by a system that is biased against him. Go ahead, Shervon. Sorry about that.
No. And I'll add to what you're saying. I'll go further. We are fighting for your daughters as well. Because those who have sons are going to be married to your daughters. Right? So if you say, well, I have no boyfriend, so I don't know what you're talking about, they're going to be married to your daughters. And your daughters will have children for that young man. And you would want that young man to be able to be there to support your daughters as well. So everything we advocate here for is for the benefit of the family, That is why I say we are not no opposite of the feminist movement. Everything we advocate here is for the benefit of the family. Everything we say men should have access to and a right to, it directly and indirectly benefits the family. Davika, thank you for that comment. Davika says, it is very difficult to take care of a newborn baby postpartum without the support of the father. Women have a host of issues that can occur postpartum. I support paternity leave for men equal to what women get. I could not take my baby to the doctor without her father driving, or even to do simple errands. On one occasion, she almost choked in her car seat. Women are not superheroes. We need men's support. Well, the Vika, I'm so glad it's a woman who put that here today. Because if we had made that comment ourselves, they may have hung us from the square this evening. But I endorse what you're saying, Navika. Right? I endorse what you're saying. This is our partnership. We have to do this together. Thank you very much for that comment. Yvette, I seen you're here again. You said you don't believe all men are bad, but believe in shared responsibility. Yes, you had that experience, but advocated for shared parenting and you encourage it. And don't believe in preventing fathers from seeing their children. My father was a great role model in my life, and that's what I expect. Thank you for clarifying that, Yvette. And as we said, we're not jumping down your throat, eh? We're not, right? We thank you for engaging and being a part of the program this evening. Folks, remember the numbers to call 222-8255. The toll-free number is 866-525-1099. And WhatsApp is 868-318-1021. 318-1021. I have a message here from Tyrell. Tyrell says, imagine if a man does not pay maintenance, he has a penalty of a warrant being taken out. But if a mother does not allow the father to see the child, and even though he has court-ordered access, there is no penalty. Yes, that is a crying shame, Tyrell. It's something that we have addressed on a number of occasions. It's one of the items that Wendell would have read out there in the Joint Select Committee recommendations. Yeah, and we have continuously said that we want more stringent action taken against any parent who actively seeks to prevent a child from having a relationship with their other parent, be that a father doing it or a mother. We do not stand for parental alienation, regardless of who is the perpetrator. Parental alienation hurts children in ways we cannot imagine, and we've mentioned it on this program before, and it follows them all the way to adulthood. Wendell was making a point of what we're advocating for if you have children. In the stats on parental alienation and the reports, one of the things that it says is that children who are victims of parental alienation are more likely to end up in a relationship where that cycle is perpetuated against them. So when we say we want parents to think about what they are doing when they engage in these types of activities, you're seeing the now and you're seeing the hurt you're feeling now and the trauma you're feeling now, but you are inflicting damage on your child for a lifetime to come, right? You are impacting your child's ability to have healthy relationships when they are adults. So we need to consider all of these things when we face these issues of separation. Tyrell asks another question. He says, my question is, if a man can't pay, let's say he's out of work, I'm assuming he can't pay maintenance, is it right for him to get locked up to make it more difficult for him to find work? Tyrell, if you have court-ordered maintenance and you are unable to, you've lost your job, right? You become disabled or anything that prevents you from earning an income, you can apply to the court where your order was granted, where the order of maintenance was granted, asking for a variation of that maintenance order. All right? That being said, notwithstanding, we say to fathers all the time, we need to get up and get the work legally, right, to be able to provide for our children. And, I've noticed, right, over time in Trinidad, we've become prideful. What do I mean by that? There was a time and season in Trinidad where we had so many relatives going to other countries, right, the US and Canada, to do maid work and housework and see about people's children and do all kind of what people may term menial jobs. David Rondell said he's trying to get back in, right? To do work that people may classify as menial jobs. Now, there are jobs here. You always hear the KFCs and the fast food restaurants and all of these places saying that they can't get employment. They can't get employees. Sorry, not employment. They don't have enough employees and they have more stores that they would like to open. Because apparently we find those jobs here now to be menial. So somebody might say listening or looking on, well, who is you in your shirt and tie to tell people to go and fry chicken? And I made the point. I fried my share of chicken in my career. So we say to fathers, as much as we advocate for your rights, right? You also have to provide for your child. That is part of your rights. Responsibility, in fact. You have to provide for your child. Katian, thank you for that comment. Katian says, we have really allowed the agenda promoters to blind us from beauty of loving each other. Katian, well said. Well said. Another, I've taken some of these things and putting on t-shirts, eh? And I'll give you all a kickback. All right? Thank you. Wendell, I don't know if you heard your Vika's comment.
No, boy, I got cut off for a while and I got some problems to get on. I heard
I'm reading the last sentence of the
before you read that, Shervon, I don't want to lose this thought because I heard the guy who had asked the question on maintenance, right? And I want to encourage him to look at section 27 in the family court of the Family Law Act, section 27. Go to section 27.4. Sometimes you need to point this out to your lawyers because I find some of them lazy these days. If you can prove that you have not been negligent, or possibly it is by a justifiable cause, that you have not been able to keep up with your maintenance payments, the law instructs the magistrate not to commit you to prison. And I'm not hearing lawyers quoting this law, bringing up that law in court or putting it before the magistrate and the judges when they're ready to commit you to prison. Section 27.4, but it is wise for you to go through the entire Family Law Act, which is pertaining to maintenance, the section that pertains to maintenance, which is section 27, right? Straight until 30, which you will also see some of the things that, some of the penalties which we find should increase for even persons who misuse maintenance money as well. Section 30 speaks to a fine. I mean, there's not a big fine, unfortunately, $1,000 or 2 months in jail, I think it was. That's something that needs to amend a lot more, but it is in the current Family Law Act as stands. Right. Go ahead, Shervon. Sorry about that.
No problem at all. The Vika is in her comments, she's advocating for paternity leave, parental leave, and she's given some of her experience that she had with her child, of her child almost choking, right? But she's thankful that the father was around in the vehicle and going to all of her appointments with her and all of those things, all of the different experiences she listed in her comment. And she's saying she couldn't see herself doing it without the father being there. In the end of her comment, and I told her, I said, it's good thing you say this and not us, because they would have hung us in Woodford Square today. She said, women are not superheroes. Wow. We need men support.
Correct. And bro, I am so, encouraged to hear woman message. I think it's Navika you said, Katian, the lady who called, even the lady who provoked the discussion just now as well about the notion that some people may have that men won't utilize.
I cleared it up when you were off air. She sent another comment. I read it and I thank her for being open.
Input as well.
Yes.
But this is the discussion that we need to have, and it's good to see so much support from women. I'm encouraging the men as well. Come and stand for yourself. And the thing is, this is why I see it's critical for us. We haven't confirmed the location as yet. I just want to give them a little information on the town hall session we plan to have. We are tentatively seeking to plan it for the 26th, which is next Friday. However, you definitely stay tuned on our Facebook page You will definitely see us making the rounds on the media. If it is that we get the venue, we're looking at the venue, which is the Library Nales in Port of Spain from next Friday afternoon. I mean, we may have to speak to Power 102. I don't know if they will come down there and during the segment feature us with it. But as I said, it is something that is tentative, where we will be sending invitations to the family court. They did send in a press release. They did say in a press release, that they want to meet with that. They are willing to consult with the stakeholder. And I mean, from the time they give us that invitation, we're ready to jump at that. So we're going to invite them. We're going to invite the AG. We have already got commitment from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service to be there as well, so that we could have these issues aired and voiced and encourage single fathers and even mothers as well who want to find out information pertaining to custody, pertaining to access, paternity leave, a number of these things, to have that town hall session where we could have some meaningful and hopefully provoke together as men and women the changes that we have that have already been suggested by the Joint Select Committee. These are suggestions that have been made from 2018 that I think at this point, Shervon, would have played a very instrumental part if paternity leave was there for these grieving families of these babies, and also may have provided that protective arm for persons like Shannon and Shervon Reyes. I mean, had they taken Shannon, because Shervon was preceded that, had they taken that advice? So, I mean, I just want to give you guys a heads up on that. Please continue to monitor the Facebook page during the upcoming week. You would have to reserve seats. It's free of cost. All of our consultations are always free, our town hall sessions, and we really want you all to come out, give your input, and we'll get the panelists there to really that are necessary, that we think are necessary to really get this Joint Select Committee recommendation on the ball and rolling.
Gentlemen, we have an international caller. Good afternoon, caller.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes,
Good afternoon.
Go ahead.
Afternoon. Are you hearing us?
Hello? Yes, I'm hearing you guys.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Thanks for calling. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Canada.
All right.
Okay, make your point.
No, I was just listening in and calling to talk about the benefits of having a partner during pregnancy, like an active partner at home with you during pregnancy, that helps with emotional support, physical support, like simple things like doctor visits, things that will help decrease anxiety, especially when you have these doctor visits. There are questions pertaining like test results, things that you can both come together and make decisions on for any, let me say, inconvenience or anything that may arise during pregnancy. Let's say like birth defects, for example. Things that you'd have to make last minute decisions during labor, like having that partner there to see what's going on, to make the decisions while you can, because as somebody who is given labor, you would be in and out of it. Sometimes you have to make last minute decisions on certain things, and you're not really aware of what's taking place. Yes, you're giving birth, yes, you don't know the decisions, but having that partner there to be, aware and to make the hard call, that is very important.
True.
I want to
Go ahead, caller.
talk about is maternity leave and the benefits of parental leave.
True.
Feel like the ones in Trinidad and the ones in here, like in Canada, you do have up to 15 weeks maternity leave, and that is just maternity leave. There also is parental leave. We have standard parental leave as well as extended parental leave. The standard parental leave for Canada is 40 weeks.
40?
40 weeks. 40 standard parental leave. And what I love about that is not just for the mother, it's for both parents. So
Very good.
So the mother, the person that gave birth, and it's not only for persons that give birth, they also have it for adopted parents as well. So you have 15 standard weeks of maternity leave, and then you could choose between standard parental leave or extended parental leave. So the standard parental leave is 40 weeks. extended parental leave is 69 weeks. And as I said, it's not just for the mother, it's for the mother and the father. So you could decide who wants to take what. So if one parent takes 35, so one parent can't take more than 35 weeks of standard leave. So let's say I as a mother take 35 weeks of the standard parental leave. My
You
husband
share.
take the next 5. Correct. We share.
Correct. I heard of that process, yeah.
If we do extended parental leave, I can get 61 and he can get the next 8 because it's 69 weeks in total.
Yeah, I understand. So I mean,
Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you for that call. And it's a system that I would have before as well. Because I think people are not people, I mean societies and nations are realizing the value of parenting. We are seeing it. Parenting are the immediate and first guards. They are the first mentors. They are the first lines of protection before everything else. So you see, you want the parent themselves to develop that bond and that closeness and that intimate connection to the child. It's something that's psychological. So you want both parties involved so that development is balanced between them. You understand? So I don't understand, as I continue to say, why this is such a hard thing for our leaders, our members of parliament to understand. Why is it so difficult? Why? Why is there a pronouncement from parliamentarians themselves in a recommendation from 2018 that you yourselves as a parliament can say, all right, let me get this before cabinet, get this before the AG, and get it going? I cannot understand it. I cannot understand it. And they were given a date by December 2018 and nothing was done. I don't think I have seen things that were brought up, certain movements and certain female issues, women issues, and within months it was passed because of the very same thing you say, Shervon. Sometimes not because of genuine care, but because they believe that is the way to pander support. And that is the reality of it. And I once again want to commend those women who understand the value and significance of seeking after the rights of men, because you are joining the recruitment where it comes to paving the way for a better life for your sons. And as Shervon alluded to, your son-in-laws also.
Thank you, caller.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for a good one.
Thank you again for calling. Thanks for calling. It really continues to baffle me. We have identified that the root cause of crime in this country is the breakdown of the family system, Wendell.
Correct.
Right? And yet still, there are simple things, low-hanging fruit like this, we can invest in towards reinforcing the family system. In fact, you guys, I forgot Wendell got dropped off, but we were reviewing a study some time ago where the researchers were showing that the majority of the time the breakdown or the strain in the family started, right? When they were interviewing those persons in separated homes, they were saying it started around the time of the first child. And the researchers were pointing to the fact of the amount of stress and strain a family is under at that point in time during that period of pregnancy, going forward, post-pregnancy, and how that significantly impacted families and the need to invest and provide resources and services to families around that time to reinforce the family system. And there's so much research around the world. We don't even have to go and do anything. Again, as Wendell was saying earlier today, why is it that we have to be on a radio program pleading for something that is just common sense?
It's frightening, no, Shervon. It's frightening to me because it's as if as a man, boy, women wouldn't understand what we're talking about. But I want them to envision if it was this difficult to get something so sensible or something so relevant in place, how you would feel as members of a society. And it goes back to the point as into why a man feels hopeless to a point to take his life. Because he sees no solution or no place where he could find justice sometimes. No place where he could find restoration, he could find assistance. So many male issues, and we'll go into a number of them in our discussions weekly. When we talking about homelessness and displaced men, 94% of them, 85% of the suicide victims, 4 out of every 5 victims is a man. So many challenges and tragedies that befall men, and it seems like there is no lifeline for them. None whatsoever. Just this week I was sent a video of a man who tried to kill himself before and made good on it this week. The video of him trying the time before and the video of when he did it now. And yet still there is no call. But let me not say no call. We've been calling. There's no response to the call. There's no response to the call. I am telling you that if there was 85% of our suicide victims being female, there would have been something done. And I want to understand today, aren't the lives of males valuable anymore? Are you saying to every father and every mother that their sons' lives or their sons' futures are unimportant? Their son's future role of fatherhood is insignificant? Their son's future role of them having the opportunity to have some kind of social relief if they fall on hard times is irrelevant? Is it that we are saying to our young boys now? Because if that is the case, I am telling you, and we are already seeing it happening, and we continue to abandon these young males, they will do exactly what we are seeing starting to happen. They will rebel on society. They will burn the society down just to feel its warmth. That is an old African proverb.
Gentlemen.
David, thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Very dynamic program. And I wish you guys could continue to fight the good fight, like they say. And let's help to build a better TNT where the young people are concerned, especially.
Thanks again. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for 102. Have a good weekend, Trinidad and Tobago. Be safe out there.
That's it for today's edition of the Fathers Association and the dispensation of what should be done to improve family life in Trinidad and Tobago, and by extension, the world. So until next Friday, when these guys will be back, Rondell, Shervon, and Wendell, do have yourselves a good weekend. And that's it for today.
The future of talk is here. Power 102 Digital.